Okay, I was started. So I was born on June 21st, 2000 in Spokane, Washington. I was born with bladder exstrophy and cloacal exstrophy. And at that point, not too many doctors in Washington knew about bladder exstrophy and how to help it. And so I had one doctor in Spokane who actually went to school with Dr. Grady. And so she was over in Spokane, so she kind of had me sent over to Seattle to get some work done. And and so since I was born with cloacal exstrophy, I also had a colostomy and I was closed up, I guess. And so I also was born with spina bifida too, so I kind of had a triple win. And so I was in and out of the hospital my first few years of existence, and with just bladder exstrophy, surgeries to tune that up, surgeries to help my back, surgeries to fix everything, but that didn't fix everything. And so I was growing up. I grew up with two older sisters, and my sisters didn't slow down after I was born. So they were busy with their sports and friends, and just growing up as a regular kid, and I was kind of stuck in the shadows of them, just kind of watching them, how they interacted with everybody, and how they did everything, I guess. And so growing up, I decided that I wanted to start playing sports like they did. And so when I was about 9, I wanted to start playing baseball. And so we found a little league there in Moses Lake, Washington, and kind of talked to everybody. And I had a few cousins and uncles that were a part of that. And so I got into it, and I had a coach willing to take me on as a challenge and see what he can do to help me succeed. So I played baseball for 2 years, which I had help from my dad and other friends I made along the way. So the big turning point in my life was 7 years ago when I almost lost my life because my colon started to shut down, and so everything just kind of started to fall apart, and I ended up flatlining 3 times on the table over there in Seattle, and we had a great team of doctors working on me and making sure that I did come out alive. And so at that point, after my surgery, I was about 35 pounds, just skin and bone, nothing really to me, and that's when I started really taking it hard on myself. I started being super depressed, and I hated life at this point. I was really mad about everything and everyone, and and at that point, after that surgery, I was told by 12 years old I would no longer be alive. They said I would basically just suffocate in my own body and wouldn't make it. And so obviously that's not true. I'm here, almost 17, so. So at the time, my lung capacity was about 60% and slowly decreasing. And so they were like, yeah, 12 is going to come fast. You're no longer going to be around. And so I decided I needed to start doing something a little different. So at about 11 years old, I started this I started helping with this organization that took kids with physical disabilities, and we went on fishing and hunting trips, and I was kind of their spokesperson. So I helped talk to the kids and hang out with the kids and like let them know that they're not the only ones out there. And we had the great experiences of going out fishing, hunting, all sorts of things. And then so that's up at the top. That's me at 35 pounds after that surgery. So through that organization of the hunting and fishing, we met some great people over in Spokane that ran a sports team, and so they're like, hey, you guys want to come out and do a presentation, and hopefully, we could take some of your people, and you could take some of our people. And so I show up, and the first thing they do is, hey, you want to jump into a basketball chair and play some basketball with us? And I had no idea how or what to do, or like I never had seen wheelchair basketball in my life, so this was a brand new thing to me. And by the end of that one practice, they came up and asked me, hey, you want to go to a tournament next week in Portland? And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and but I accepted. And at that point, I've never been anywhere without my parents, without their help, and so it was a little overwhelming. So I started playing basketball more and more, and I started getting better and better, and then that's when it kind of took a turn. So I was also asked to start doing track, and I didn't even know what that looked like, and so I started, and I started traveling more and more, and at this point I was still I could not control my bladder and all that stuff, so I was still wearing pull-ups and stuff at age 12, which is pretty hard when you're going into middle school and everybody else is growing and changing and you're kind of stuck. And so through all this travel and realizing that I needed to start becoming more independent, and so I talked to Dr. Grady again, and we kind of came to the conclusion that I think it was time to get him a Trophanoff and take care of business. And so the year 2012, I believe, I had him a Trophanoff down in augmented bladder. And so that was really great. Then at that point it changed the way I took care of myself, the way I kind of represented myself, and I had a ton more independence, and my self-image just kind of boosted. And so I just continued after that. I continued playing sports, and everything was starting to just kind of build up, and I started getting better. And we look back, and after just about a year and a half, 2 years of playing sports, my lung capacity went from 60% to 100%, 110. And so it really showed that what I was doing was affecting me, not only mentally, but physically. And so at that time, I was already 12, about to turn 13, and just kind of rubbing it in those doctors' faces. And so yeah, I've grown through my family and my sport and the friends I've made along the way. So I started doing track back in 2013, 2012. And it just kind of came naturally at first, and then I had to work pretty hard. And so I started in 2012. I didn't start competing nationally until about 2014. And I traveled to California, and I had my first national championships to compete at, and I got my butt kicked. But then the next year came around, and 2015, and I started beating these guys, and I was like, dang, okay, this is like something I could actually do pretty well. And so I started beating the guys that like whooped me the year before, and so I kind of found more interest in it and started working harder and harder. And so in 2015, I had my freshman year of high school. I went to state, and I got 4 state titles, and then after that I went on to nationals and competed in Minneapolis, and I got 2 silver medals in the 100 and the 400, I believe. And so that's where my life kind of took a turn. And so after that, I was selected to be on a world championship team that competed in Doha, Qatar, and a Para-Pan Am team that competed in Toronto. And so those were my 2 kind of trial runs at international competition. And so I went, my first one was the Para-Pan Am Games in Toronto, and oh shoot, we'll get back to that. So yeah, so that was my first competition, international competition in Toronto, and me and another teammate of mine and my coach were all selected for athlete and staff members of that team, and so I kind of went and tried to compete. You know, I didn't really give my competition too much run for their money, but it was a great experience for me to get out there and get that under my belt. And then after that, I came back for like a week and a half, and then left to go over to Doha, Qatar for a month and compete, and that was awesome. I competed against guys that are 3 times my age, and at a whole new level than I was, and so it was a great experience for me to go through and see how all that, and especially with all my medical issues and how I dealt with them overseas, and how I kind of took care of myself. And there were a lot of challenges through that, but I just kind of had to adapt, and I learned to take care of myself over there. So we'll go back to this. So through all that sport and everything I was doing, I got selected to an organization called Stay Focused, and they fly disabled athletes, I guess. They take them on, and they fly us out to the Cayman Islands and to get our scuba diving license. So I did that for a year, and then I come back the next year and for a reunion trip with all the great people I met. So I am a licensed scuba diver, if you guys ever need one. So also in 2015, I was selected to go over to the Netherlands and compete at the Junior World Games. It was, and so I went over, and that was my very first international competition, but it wasn't at a high level. And so I went over and with some of my friends on my team and my coach, and yeah, it was a great experience. I won all 4 of my races, and so I came home with some gold medals. But that's not all that mattered in that trip. And I got to walk around Amsterdam, see all that crazy stuff there. But no, it was a great experience for that too, because that was my very first international competition, but it wasn't very at a high level. So, but it was great for traveling and taking care of myself. So my ongoing adventures, I did my high school track and field state last year and this year. Last year I picked up 2 more state titles, and then this year I did another full sweep, so I got 4 more state titles. So in total I have 10 state titles right now. And And I also raced in a 7.41 mile race in Spokane, Washington, called Bloomsday. And I've finished, last year I finished 10th, and this year I finished 9th with a 2-second PR. And so yeah, just the little races around. I raced in Arizona the last 2 years. This year I won the 400 meter dash, and I play basketball, and so I travel everywhere for that too. And I've been talking to colleges for scholarships and stuff to go play basketball for them. And we play a little 3-on-3 tournament in Spokane. It's one of the largest 3-on-3 tournaments in the world. And so yeah, that's a fun one. Fast cow. So I got invited to an international meet in Indianapolis this last year. And so in order to go to that, you kind of have to get invited, and so then Team USA pays for your way there, and you compete under Team USA. And so I've done that the last 2 years. They've had me go through and kind of compete with everybody else, but I haven't done too well at that meet, but it's alright. Yeah, I talked about Minnesota in 2015. Last year in 2016, U.S. Paralympic National Track and Field Championships. Last year was the trials for Rio, and unfortunately I only missed it by 1 or 2 slots, so I was close, but not close enough. But I mean, at the age 15, I wasn't too worried. I mean, it was upsetting, but it wasn't too bad, because I knew I'll have more to come. And then this last weekend actually, I competed at national championships over in LA, then at UCLA, and so based on your how well you did there, they were choosing like a world championship team again, because it's every 2 years, and so this one was going to London. And unfortunately there was less spots than they had in Rio too, so I didn't make that team. But they were also selecting a team for a Junior World Championships in Switzerland this fall. And so I got named to that team yesterday. So I'll be going to Switzerland in the fall. And this last year, after not making the team for Rio, I kind of took a couple months off and explored my options a little bit, see what else I could get myself into. And so I started playing hockey in the winter, and I love it. I love hitting people against the boards. And so, yeah, and through my competition this season, I've really exceeded, and I got invited. The Canadian Paralympic team invited me to their national championships. So in a couple weeks, I'll be headed over to Ottawa in Canada and compete against all their racers there, and see how we match up. And so yeah, I plan on finishing out this season in Canada and then headed over to Switzerland, and then after this season we're going to look towards more college, because I'll be a senior in high school this next year, and like I said, I've been talking to some colleges, and I've really been talking to University of Alabama for basketball scholarship, and so we're going to lean towards that and see what we can do on the track end over there too. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I've probably whizzed through that. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And I brought a bag of all my medals and awards, so if you guys want to come and see it. So yeah.
You are amazing.